The photograph had been sitting in Sarah's desk drawer for 3 years, hidden beneath old receipts and forgotten pens. She never meant to keep it, but somehow, she couldn't bring herself to throw it away. It was a simple picture, nothing extraordinary to anyone else, but to her, it held the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. The day she finally decided to look at it again, rain was tapping against her apartment window like gentle fingers asking to come inside. She had been cleaning out her desk, preparing for the move to a new city, when her hand brushed against the familiar edge of the photograph. Her heart skipped, just as it had every time she accidentally touched it over the years. But this time, something was different. This time, she pulled it out. The image showed 2 people standing close together at a friend's wedding, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of string lights. Sarah remembered that night vividly. How the summer air had smelled of jasmine and possibility. How her dress had felt perfect against her skin. How he had looked at her with eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. Marcus Chun. Even now, 3 years later, his name felt like a prayer on her lips. She traced the edge of the photograph with her finger, remembering the moment it was taken. They hadn't been dating then, had never dated. In fact, but there had been something between them that night. Something electric and unspoken that made her pulse quicken whenever she thought about it. "Come here," he had said, his voice barely above a whisper as the photographer approached. "I'll let you look at the photos later, but come closer now." She had stepped into his arms without hesitation, feeling the warmth of his body against hers, breathing in the scent of his cologne, mixed with something uniquely him. For one perfect moment, as the camera flashed, she had allowed herself to imagine what it would be like if this wasn't just pretend, if they weren't just friends posing for a picture. Now, sitting in her half-empty apartment with boxes stacked around her like cardboard monuments to her past, Sarah wondered if she had made the biggest mistake of her life by never telling him how she felt. The sound of her phone buzzing pulled her from her thoughts. A text message from an unknown number made her heart race. "Sarah? This is Marcus. I got your number from Jessica. I heard you're moving to Seattle. I have something I need to tell you before you go." Sarah stared at the message for a full minute, her hands trembling slightly as she held the phone. Seattle. How did he know about Seattle? She had only told a handful of people about the job offer, about her decision to start over in a new city where memories of him wouldn't lurk around every corner. She typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on something simple. "Hi, Marcus. Yes, I'm leaving next week. What did you want to tell me?" The response came faster than she expected. "Not over text. Can we meet? Tonight? I know it's short notice, but ... please." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. She had spent 3 years carefully avoiding situations where she might run into Marcus, declining mutual friends' invitations, taking different routes through town. She had convinced herself it was for the best, that some feelings were too dangerous to explore. But now, with 1 week left before her new life began, the walls she had built around her heart felt suddenly fragile. "Okay," she typed back. "Where?" "The coffee shop on Maple Street. 7 o'clock. I'll be the one who can't sit still." Despite everything, Sarah smiled. Marcus had always been honest about his nervous habits. The way he drummed his fingers against tables when he was anxious, the way he ran his hands through his dark hair when he was thinking too hard about something. She spent the next 2 hours changing clothes, settling finally on a simple blue dress that she remembered him complimenting. Once, years ago, she told herself it was just a coincidence, that she hadn't chosen it because of what he had said. But her reflection in the mirror seemed to know better. The coffee shop was busy for a Tuesday evening, filled with students studying for exams and couples sharing desserts. Sarah spotted Marcus immediately, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee already waiting. He looked older than she remembered, more serious, but his eyes lit up when he saw her walk in. "You came," he said, standing as she approached. For a moment they stood there awkwardly, neither sure whether to hug or shake hands or simply sit down. Finally, Marcus gestured to the chair across from him. "I got you a latte. 2 sugars, no foam, I remember." "You remember?" Sarah repeated, softly, settling into her chair. The fact that he remembered such a small detail about her preferences made her chest tighten with emotion. Marcus ran his hand through his hair. There was that familiar gesture, and looked down at his coffee. "I've been thinking about what to say to you for months now. Maybe longer. And now that you're here, I'm not sure where to start." Sarah wrapped her hands around the warm cup, using it to anchor herself. "Jessica told you about Seattle." "Jessica told me you were running away." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Sarah felt her cheeks flush. "I'm not running away. I got a job offer. A good one." "Sometimes people move for work, Marcus." "Do they?" His dark eyes met hers, and she saw something there she couldn't quite identify. "Because I've been wondering if maybe you're running from something specific. Or someone." Sarah's breath caught. Marcus ... "I have something to show you," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a photograph, the same photograph she had been looking at just hours earlier. "I've been carrying this around for 3 years. I know it sounds crazy, but I couldn't let it go." Sarah stared at the picture, at the 2 of them frozen in that moment of perfect possibility. "You kept it?" "I kept it because every time I looked at it, I remembered how right it felt to have you in my arms. How right it felt to pretend, just for a moment, that we were something more than friends." The coffee shop seemed to fade away around them. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of 3 years of unspoken words pressing against her chest. "Why are you telling me this now?" she whispered. Marcus leaned forward, his voice intense but gentle. "Because I've spent 3 years wondering what if, and I can't let you leave without knowing if you felt it too." That night at the wedding, in that moment when the camera flashed, did you feel it? Sarah closed her eyes, remembering the warmth of his body against hers, the way her heart had raced when he whispered for her to come closer, the way she had wanted to turn in his arms and kiss him right there in front of everyone. "I felt it," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "I felt everything." The admission hung between them like a bridge neither was sure they had the courage to cross. Marcus reached across the table, his fingers brushing against hers where they rested around her coffee cup. "Then why didn't we ever—" he began. "But—" Sarah shook her head. "You know why? We were both with other people then. And after that—" She trailed off, remembering the messy aftermath of her breakup with David, the way Marcus had been there for her as a friend, patient and kind and careful not to take advantage of her vulnerability. "After that, I thought I had missed my chance," Marcus finished. "I thought if I had really meant something to you, you would have given me a sign." Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A sign?" "Marcus, I spent 2 years giving you signs. I invited you to every movie I went to see. I texted you every morning. I made excuses to stop by your office. I thought you weren't interested." Marcus stared at her, his expression shifting from confusion to something that looked like regret. "I thought you were just being friendly. I thought after everything you'd been through with David, the last thing you wanted was another man complicating your life. So we both spent 3 years being idiots," Sarah said, shaking her head. 3 years of missed opportunities because we were both too scared to say what we really felt. "Maybe," Marcus said, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her hand. "Or maybe we needed those 3 years to become the people we are now." Maybe we needed to learn what we really wanted. Sarah looked down at their joined hands, at the way his fingers fit perfectly between hers. And what do you want now, Marcus? I want to ask you not to go to Seattle. The words hit her like a physical blow. Sarah pulled her hand away, shaking her head. You can't ask me that. I've already accepted the job. I've signed a lease. I've spent months planning this move. I know, Marcus said quickly. I know it's not fair, but I also know that I can't let you walk away without telling you how I feel. I'm in love with you, Sarah. I've been in love with you since that night at the wedding, maybe even before that. And I know the timing is terrible, and I know I should have said something sooner, but... Stop, Sarah said, standing abruptly. Her chair scraped against the floor, drawing glances from other patrons. You can't do this. You can't tell me you love me a week before I'm supposed to start my new life. Marcus stood too, his face pale but determined. I can't let you go without fighting for you. I won't make that mistake again. Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes. And what if I stayed? What if I gave up the job, broke my lease, turned my whole life upside down for you? What then, Marcus? What if it doesn't work out? What if we're better as friends? What if we ruin everything we have? What if we don't? Marcus stepped closer, his voice soft but urgent. What if we're perfect together? What if we're meant to be more than friends? What if this is our chance at something real? Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She had spent 3 years building walls around her heart, convincing herself that it was better to be safe than sorry. But now, looking at Marcus's face, seeing the love and hope and fear all mixed together in his expression, she wondered if safety had been worth the loneliness. I need time to think, she said finally. This is too much, too fast. I can't make this decision right now. Marcus nodded, though she could see the disappointment in his eyes. How much time? I don't know. A few days? I leave on Saturday. Okay, Marcus said, though his voice was strained. I'll wait. But Sarah... I need you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. But I'm not giving up on us, not again. Sarah felt her heart break a little at the raw honesty in his voice. Marcus... No, let me finish, he said, stepping closer again. I've had 3 years to think about this. 3 years to imagine what I would say if I ever got the chance. And I know it's scary. And I know it's complicated, but I also know that what we have is worth fighting for. He reached out and gently touched her cheek, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I love you, Sarah. I love the way you scrunch your nose when you're thinking. I love the way you laugh at bad movies. I love the way you always order extra pickles on your sandwiches and then give them to me. I love that you kept that photograph for 3 years. Just like I did. Sarah's breath caught. How did you know I kept it? Marcus smiled, and for the first time that evening it reached his eyes. Because I know you. I know you better than I know myself sometimes. And I know that what we have is real, even if we've been too scared to admit it. Sarah stared at him, feeling the walls around her heart crumbling. What are you asking me to do? I'm asking you to take a chance on us. I'm asking you to believe that some things are worth the risk. I'm asking you to come closer, Sarah. Let me show you what we could be. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She sat by her window, watching the city lights blur through her tears, turning Marcus's words over in her mind like stones in a tumbler. The photograph lay on her lap, that moment of perfect possibility now feeling like either a promise or a torment. She thought about Seattle, about the job that would challenge her, about the apartment with the view of the Sound, about the fresh start she had planned so carefully. She thought about the safety of distance, about how much easier it would be to love Marcus from 3,000 miles away, where the risk of heartbreak was theoretical rather than immediate. But she also thought about his hands on her face, about the way he had looked at her when he said he loved her, about the 3 years they had already lost to fear and misunderstanding. By morning, she had made her decision. She called in sick to work and spent the day walking through the city, visiting all the places that held memories of Marcus. The bookstore where they had spent countless Saturday afternoons browsing and talking. The park where they had fed ducks and shared their dreams. The restaurant where they had celebrated her promotion last year, where she had almost told him how she felt, but lost her nerve at the last her moment. Each place felt like a goodbye, but also like a hello. Like she was seeing her life clearly for the first time in years. At 6 o'clock, she found herself standing outside Marcus's apartment building, her heart racing with the same nervous energy she had felt before every important moment in her life. She had never been to his apartment before. Their friendship had always existed in public spaces, safe and neutral, but she had looked up his address in the phone book, needing to see him in his private space, needing to understand the man behind the carefully maintained friendship. She climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her legs shaking with each step. At his door, she paused, gathering her courage. Then she knocked. Marcus answered almost immediately, as if he had been waiting by the door. His hair was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he had slept about as well as she had. "Sarah," he said, his voice rough with surprise and hope. "I didn't expect. Can I come in?" She interrupted, not trusting herself to maintain her courage if she had to explain herself in the hallway. Marcus stepped aside, gesturing her into his apartment. It was smaller than she had imagined, but warm and lived in. Books everywhere, plants on every surface, photographs on the walls that told the story of his life. And there, on his desk, she saw it another copy of their photograph, this one framed and sitting in a place of honor. "You framed it," she sighed, walking over to touch the glass. "I look at it every morning," Marcus admitted, closing the door behind her. "I know it's pathetic, but it's not pathetic," Sarah said, turning to face him. "It's beautiful. You're beautiful." Marcus stepped closer, his eyes searching her face. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "I'm taking a chance," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm choosing to believe that some things are worth the risk." "What does that mean?" Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "It means I'm not going to Seattle. It means I'm going to stay here and see what happens when we stop being afraid. It means I'm going to love you, Marcus, if you'll let me." Marcus stared at her for a long moment, and she saw a dozen emotions flicker across his face: surprise, joy, disbelief, hope. Then he was moving toward her, his hands framing her face the way they had in the coffee shop. "Are you sure?" he whispered. "Are you sure this is what you want?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Sarah said, reaching up to touch his face. "I love you, Marcus. I've loved you for 3 years, and I'm tired of being scared." Marcus's smile was like sunrise. "Come here," he said, echoing the words from that night at the wedding. "Come closer." This time, when Sarah stepped into his arms, she knew it wasn't pretend. This time, when he held her close, she could feel the promise of forever in his embrace. This time, when he leaned down to kiss her, she knew that some photographs were worth keeping, and some chances were worth taking, and some love was worth fighting for. As their lips met, Sarah felt the last of her walls crumble. She felt the Fear that had held her back for so long dissolved into something beautiful and new. She felt the future spreading out before them, uncertain but full of possibility. And she knew that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is let someone come closer. Sometimes, the most beautiful thing you can do is let someone look into your heart and see all the love you've been hiding there. Outside, the city continued its eternal dance, but inside Marcus's apartment, time seemed to stand still. Two people who had found each other again, who had chosen love over fear, who had decided that some risks were worth taking. The photograph on Marcus's desk caught the last light of the evening sun. Two figures frozen in a moment of perfect possibility. That now, finally, that possibility was becoming reality. Some stories, Sarah thought as Marcus held her close, are worth the wait. 3 months later, Sarah stood in the doorway of what had once been Marcus's apartment, and was now theirs, watching him hang the last of their pictures on the wall. The framed photograph from the wedding held the place of honor in their living room, but it was surrounded now by new pictures images of their first official date, their first vacation together, their first Christmas as a couple. Perfect, Marcus said, stepping back to admire his work. What do you think? Sarah smiled, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. I think it looks like home. Marcus turned in her arms, his face soft with contentment. Any regrets? About Seattle? Sarah considered the question, thinking about the life she had almost chosen, the safety she had almost settled for. None, she said firmly. This is where I belong. With you. Marcus kissed her forehead gently. I still can't believe you stayed. I still can't believe you had the courage to ask me to. Well, Marcus said, grinning. Someone had to be brave enough to take the first step. Sarah laughed, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him. Next time, let's not wait 3 years to tell each other how we feel. Deal, Marcus agreed. But Sarah? Yeah? I'm glad we waited until we were ready. I'm glad we took the time to become the people we needed to be for each other. Sarah nodded, understanding what he meant. They had both needed those 3 years to heal from past relationships, to learn what they really wanted, to become brave enough to risk everything for love. Come here, Marcus said, pulling her toward the couch. I want to show you something. Sarah settled beside him, curious. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, and Sarah's heart stopped. Marcus, she breathed. No, it's only been 3 months, he said quickly. And I know we're still figuring things out. But Sarah, I've known for 3 years that I wanted to spend my life with you. I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to miss any more chances. Sarah stared at the box, her hands shaking. Are you? I'm asking you to take one more chance with me, Marcus said, opening the box to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. I'm asking you to marry me. I'm asking you to let me love you for the rest of our lives. Sarah looked from the ring to Marcus's face, seeing the love and hope and nervous excitement there. She thought about all the chances she had almost missed, all the fears that had almost kept her from this moment. Yes, she said, her voice strong and sure. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll take every chance with you. Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and Sarah marveled at how perfectly it fit, how right it felt. I love you, Marcus said, kissing her deeply. I love you so much. I love you too, Sarah replied, holding him close. And I promise no more running away, no more being scared. From now on, we face everything together. Marcus smiled against her lips. Together, as they sat there, surrounded by photographs of their love story, Sarah realized that sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for. Sometimes the people we're meant to be with are worth every moment of uncertainty, every sleepless night, every fear overcome. And sometimes, when someone asks you to come closer, when they offer to let you look into their heart, the bravest thing you can do is say yes. Their story had begun with a photograph and a whispered invitation to come closer. It had survived 3 years of silence, misunderstanding, and fear. And now, it was becoming something beautiful and permanent and true. Some love stories, Sarah thought as Marcus held her close, are worth fighting for. Some chances are worth taking, and some people are worth choosing, again and again, for the rest of your life. The photograph on their walls smiled down at them, a reminder of where they had started and how far they had come. But Sarah knew that the real story was just beginning.